Hi, I'm Gianna Linus, the manager of early learning programming at Prairie, and today I wanted to share with you the importance of our 5 senses, and actually what you will come to learn is really our 7 senses, and the impact of sensory play in the life of our earliest learners. At Prairie, no matter if we're at the preschool, at a public early learning program, or at a play trip that we hold for our preschoolers, kindergartners, and first graders in our local schools and surrounding communities, we pay attention to our senses and how our senses, and actually which of our senses are being utilized in all of the invitations that we create for the experiences that our children will have when they come to visit. And so you could say that our senses are really probably one of the most valued things that we consider when we are planning and preparing for any of our guests at Prairie. We know that when multiple senses are being engaged, that our brains are really firing and coming alive, and the depth and richness of the learning that's occurring is just growing exponentially during that time, and that's what we're after. So the more senses that we are engaged with at once, the deeper our learning. And we also know that nature is our best teacher. And so here at Prairie, we have the unique and fortunate opportunity to be surrounded by lots of grassy area, wooded areas, bodies of water, just multiple opportunities to engage with our natural world. And we know that when we are outside, that all of our senses are being engaged, really the entire time we're outside. If you take a second, just take a few seconds and walk outside and just pay attention to the things you see and hear and smell, and yes, maybe even taste. But then as we continue to talk today, I hope that you'll begin to learn a couple of other senses that we actually have that are really important, really come into play in regards to all of our senses. So our senses are tools for discovering the world around us, and outside of the familiar 5 senses of the sight and smell and hearing and sound and tasting and touching, there's 2 other senses that we want to focus on today, and one of those is called our vestibular sense. Now, our vestibular sense is located and housed in our inner ear, and a lot of us do know and are aware that our inner ear has a lot to do with our balance, but it also has a lot to do with where we are in space and how we're moving. And so the way that we engage our vestibular sense is by simply moving our head up and down, side to side. Whenever we do that, it's sending a message to our brain that our body position has changed, and our brain then interprets that and sends a message back to our body to tell us what to do with that. So how we can develop our vestibular sense is by spinning around in circles, or hanging our head upside down, running around, or even rolling down a hill, which, by the way, is one of our favorite things to do at Prairie. There is a giant hill behind the Connor house. It's actually the front side of the Connor house specifically. But on any given day, you'll see children of all ages rolling down that hill and climbing back up again. We also have a really great hill at the preschool, and so if you have a child there, you know how much that hill gets used. And as you'll see as I talk about the next sense, which is proprioception, our children at the preschool especially are engaging all of those 7 senses, specifically in an activity that they love to do at the preschool, which involves an old car tire and that hill again. So proprioception is simply our body's awareness of pressure on our joints and our ligaments and our muscles. And it's also an understanding without looking where our bodies are in space in relationship to other things. And so when our children at the preschool are rolling a tire down a hill, they are utilizing, obviously, their muscles in pulling and pushing motions, because they roll them down the hill and roll them right back up again. But obviously all 5 senses are engaged, the familiar 5. But then with proprioception, that pressure of their hands on the tire, and that holding of their muscle in that space. Their maintaining a balance also has to do with proprioception. And so another example too that's really easy to understand is the holding of a pencil that you're going to use to write or draw with. Holding those muscles in place, maintaining the right amount of pressure to get the desired effect or the desired result. And children, we know that as they first start, a lot of times they apply a lot of pressure. Things are really heavy and dark. But as they practice that and learn that and develop that sense of proprioception, that right amount of pressure begins to be utilized effectively, and they have just the right amount of pressure as they're drawing, as they're writing their name, and things tend to kind of even out. So that's how you can see the development of that particular sense. How do we develop it? In babies, it's good old-fashioned tummy time. It's putting objects in their mouth and learning with their mouth the pressure they're applying to that object. It is throwing or catching a ball. So you might be just in your backyard playing around, throwing and catching a football or a basketball, any kind of ball. It's also rolling and pushing heavy objects like those car tires at the preschool. Another thing that really works well to develop this sense is children carrying their own bags with objects inside. The pressure of that object on their body and the pressure of the objects inside of that bag help them to know and to learn when they swing around and touch something else with it, where their body is in space. And so these are all really easy ways to develop that sense. And of course, our favorite way is by giving a nice, strong hug. So make sure you're doing that every day with your children. Get outside, enjoy nature, and know that when you are outside, you are using all of these 7 senses. And you are learning, and you're growing, and you're changing every day. So thanks for watching, and get outside and develop those senses.